Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey everybody, good evening. Obviously, Wally's going to have complaints, but he came in tonight and he hasn't made an appearance in quite some time, and he's a happy, healthy, huge monster. Funny thing is now, instead of eating regular cat food, he just wants to meat. It's good. Hey, welcome to Militiaman and Crew, and if I can get Wally off the paperwork, we can get started. Hey, but everybody, thank you very much for being with Patreon, with Militiaman and Crew. It's really great that everybody has been so supportive for all this time. We do have a wonderful study, and I think everybody agrees that we're watching Iraq effectively go international. It's an interesting study. It's fascinating. But this particular first article that we're going to talk about tonight is the start of drawing liquidity from the hands of Iraqis. The destruction of currency surplus and deposit in banks is historically the highest. So they're basically telling us that Iraq is getting that money outside of the banking into the bank. And that's where it's actually beneficial, because once they get that money into the bank, then they can do what they do the way that they do it, which is loan out money and be building their economy. It goes on to say is that the past years of total economic problems in Iraq internally, whether in terms of corruption, the dollar, or the rise in real estate prices or others, as well as inflation, have been directly related to the high volume of liquidity and the printing of funds from the central bank, as well as the high volume of cash in the hands of the street, or the citizens, capital owners, away from Iraqi banks. Okay, so recently trends and figures indicate that the reverse of that process has begun to take place in Iraq, consisting of reducing cash and eliminating the surplus funds printed. It says without printing new funds. Okay, so when you reduce currency, typically it goes, value tends to go up. Supply, demand, we all know that. It goes on to say that without printing new funds in the front of it all, increasing the acquisition of the liquidity by banks instead of leaving it in the hands of the citizens on the street, where it can be said that the government and the banking financial sector in general in Iraq have begun to nib, or I think that word means to reduce existing liquidity and drying up that money in the hands of the people. So that's really pretty powerful today. It says that they have the amount of their currency that they have printed at this stage is 99.2 trillion dinars. I was saying around 120. They don't say that. I thought that's where it was, based off what I felt I was comfortable with off the CBI's website. But here they're talking about, as of November 2023, it reached about 102.6 trillion dinars. My understanding of this is that's global. So that's taking into account that they have accounted for all their currency. And now you're going to find that they're destroying it or reducing it. All right? It says a trend represents getting rid of the currency, and not only stopping its printing, but also damaging it. So when you damage something, what have you done? You've actually kind of destroyed it. It says that this may seem absurd, but it's committed direction by Iraq to reform the liquidity management, and with recommendations from the International Monetary Fund, which came in the statement in the past February, praising that the efforts by the central bank in Iraq aimed at eliminating excess liquidity. So the excess liquidity is, if they can sop it up through electronic means, I think that's where that's what they're doing. Go on to say that while they printed currency up until February 2024, it's the lowest in 8 months. There is a historical record corresponding to it. as the data reviews and shows that as of January 2024, this figure is the highest ever in the history of banks, it ranging from the 6, 7, and 8 trillion over the past few months. In other words, they've absorbed into the banks, they've got off the street upwards of 8 trillion dinar. That's a lot of dinar. So anyway, the specialists believe that the data will continue in one direction. So now the direction that they're in, reducing the note count, is the direction which is where they're headed. And here it says, which is to reduce cash and printed liquidity and the attempts of banks to stick to liquidity and not leave it in the hands of the citizens. And these indicators will eventually reduce inflation in general and reduce the huge purchasing power of large Iraqi groups. I'm not so sure that's the effect that they say it that way, but the translation's got to be off, because if you reduce the note count, value and the purchasing power comes with it. So I think it's welcome news, and we're going to watch to see how everybody works out, how they play by it. All the different things that they've been saying, it's phenomenal. This system helps facilitate trade, Iraq's entry into the World Trade Organization and the World Customs Organization. So this is interesting. They reiterate it. So this new system that they have, this customs, announces that the completion of 90% of the work in the first phase of the port automation. So 90% of the work is 90% done. And what is it going to be for? It says the Customs Authority is still in the first stage and supervise the end of the stage, which will be completed sometime in June. It says, noting that the system is about creating an integrated database for customs and creating a statistical system to preserve public money through electronic payments. We know that the Port of Fao has upwards of 5 berths that are going to be for big ships, very big ships, bring in a lot of goods and services, and also it's going to be for what? Exporting oil and exporting agriculture, whatever they have. But they're talking about berth 3 and 4 are going to be completed this month. That's my understanding of it. They go on to say the system helps facilitate trade in Iraq's entry into the World Trade Organization and the World Customs Organization. So ultimately, the completion rate is about 90%. Obviously, they are completely, working to that end to be a part of those 2 organizations. They're going international. That's basically what you get from it. They're in the process, and you're going to see that throughout this study tonight is that that's where they're headed. The advisor to the Prime Minister, Iraq is within the safe ranges in terms of paying foreign debt. Okay, so why would Iraq be paying foreign debt? Because they have a lot of money. What did they do? Over time, they paid down a massive amount of money since 2003, over $100 billion. The Paris Club is involved. So Iraq's creditworthiness is coming into play. I would suggest you come into Patreon at www.patreon.com/MM&crew and take a peek and see what we have to offer. I think you'll find the value is really there. Super Samson is there with all the news while I'm sleeping, and she's up and around. And then we have Gigi and Greg and those folks, Sunkist, etc., Pompey, Peter, Petra, people analyzing things. Everybody's involved in that, so check out that site and you'll get some of these articles where you can do your own research too, because it's really important to know what you own. So to go along a little further, it says that the financial advisor to the Prime Minister, Mohammed Saleh, reveals the reasons for reducing annual allocations to pay off debt, while noting that Iraq is among the countries in a safe range in terms of debt repayment. So in other words, they've been doing what they said they were going to do, and they've been actively paying down their debt, paying their credit card bills on time effectively, and that's what is a positive. The globe is going to be paying attention to the fact that Iraq is trustworthy again. According to international standards in calculating the ability of the national economy to bear the burden of external debt, Iraq is among the group of countries in the safe range in terms of the global standard for the ratio of that external debt or debt stock. indicating that the gross domestic product, according to its estimates, it does not exceed 20%, while the global measure of debt to GDP ratio allows for up to 60%. So that's like 3 times below what's normal. Given Iraq's regularity in repaying its external debts due annually, of which approximately $20 billion remain. So that's about, Iraq's got a lot of money, you guys. They have 120 billion at the Federal Reserve. 20 billion isn't a whole lot of money in comparison to what they have on hand and what they owe. The annual allocations to pay external debts through the federal general budget allocations have begun to show a clear decline and decrease in the amount of external debts due, and this has been reflected. So in 2024, the tables regarding allocations for external debt payments compared to 2023 budget tables, with a difference of decrease that may exceed $1 billion. It's interesting because we don't have the 2024 schedules yet, but they mention it here. So think about that. So there's a reduction in those schedules. In other words, they've got excess money, or they're going to have less debt. Okay, the matter is reflected in Iraq's high creditworthiness in repaying its debts to external creditors and its commitment to repayment of the Paris Club, since it's been around since 2004. Forgive me, I said 2003. But anyway, the financial allocation mechanisms whose installments and interests are paid on a regular basis, so they've been right on spot on with that. This means that the external debt gap is heading towards shrinking and then almost completely disappearing. So there you have it. It says Paris Club Agreement 2004 dropped more than $100 billion of Iraq's pre-1990 debt. I'm pretty sure this is a big indicator that Iraq has and will be debt-free effectively in the not too distant future. So obviously having debt-free, having the parameters with international standards, IMF rules, regs, all those things are basically a major component right now. And here, this is from a foreign media source that says Iraq will become an alternative to the Suez Canal. Okay, so the Silk Road, Belt Road, or the Development Road project, okay, those are going to be a big indicator. It's interesting that I talked about them. They actually had an article which kind of floored me, is because of there's going to be a port that's part of this road project that actually goes through Gaza. And so that's it, then they on up north into Europe, etc. But when they said in the articles that they were going to rebuild Gaza, it sounds like it's been part of the plan the whole time. It's good stuff. So hopefully, I pray for all the people around the world. Peace is a wonderful thing. So let's hopefully we can keep getting it. Described that the Alpha Port project, which was expected to be completed next year, as an alternative to the Suez Canal. They're stressing that Iraq will become, during the next few years, a center for international trade between the East and the West. They go on to say that the Gulf countries are fully aware of the economic development taking place in Iraq. So the Gulf countries, the region, are fully aware of economic development taking place. So they're all going to be involved. But they're basically expecting to increase, which is going to increase soon, the completion of the Al-Fa port and huge business projects, including Gulf investments in the country through establishment of residential complex, tourists, hotels, and stressing that the Gulf began testing the waters by transferring international investments to Iraq. So it's big because they're importing money. If you remember a couple of videos back, I talked about 35% of increase in investment in Iraq. So all the people that are coming into Iraq are looking for what? Security and stability. They're looking for opportunity. And you're seeing that. I think there's an article today that I talked about, or I posted in the forum, that shows that their banks on their stock exchange have a significant increase recently. So it's bullish. It's very bullish. Iraq is coming out. It says here that according to the Gulf expectations, Baghdad will become one of the most important Arab capitals for the next 25 years. And they go on to say that the Al-Fa port will turn Iraq into an alternative to the Suez Canal. So the amount of money that's going to come through there is just going to be phenomenal. And if they can save time, shipping, distance, time, they're going to do that. That port in Gaza, from what I watched a video the other day, which I don't think has been circulated too terribly much, and I'm going to thank the gentleman that sent it to me, or the crew member that sent that to me. I found it fascinating, and thank you so much for doing so. It's important that people really take a look and see what the bigger picture is. And you know what? Progress is big. Sometimes it might be painful, but the bottom line is progress is part of the whole equation. And one of the things about that is it's going to have trade becomes cheaper. It's all about business, and they're moving forward with this. And it goes on to say that this Al-Fa port project, which was basically started in 2010, is expected to end next year, and that's in 2025. But we have those berths that we talked about that are going to be done this month. There's three ports, berths 3 and 4 is from my understanding. It says concluding agreement with Turkey to establish railways and roads worth 17 billion. So they concluded an agreement. Okay, so they're totally underway with this. What does it do? It's ensuring the two countries will transform into a commercial point, transporting goods between the two continents of Europe and Asia. So we all know that this is basically massive. It says the agency confirms that the new port will be able to receive goods and commodities and transport them through Iraq to Turkey and then into Europe, and in a huge, unprecedented manner by receiving cargo ships with giant oil tankers, which will contribute to transforming Iraq into an oil export center in addition to its new location. As an alternative to the Suez Canal, according to the description, so it's suitable. It's a suitable alternative. They're moving the movement of very large quantity of goods, commodities, without long waiting periods, and there you go. They're not stopping. They're opening. They're doing what they said they were going to do. It says here on this article, it says to resolve differences, the government delegation headed by Neshervan Barzani visits Baghdad to meet Sudanese. And when are they going to do that? Well, this was yesterday's because I was out, but to be fair, it was for today. It says Baghdad on Friday, that's today, were to meet with al-Sudani and the heads of political blocs in Baghdad to resolve the differences. It says that he adds that the visit will be private. So they had a hush-hush meeting today, is what it sounds like. But the agenda of the visit has not been announced yet. Well, why? We'll see. Basically, what are they going to do? That's help. They're looking to resolve the existence between the differences of Baghdad and the region. And that's got to do with what? Oil, energy, salaries, those types of things. Payments for the HCL, revenue sharing, all of that stuff is probably on the table. It says here Barzani is in Baghdad next Saturday. Well, here this article says, well, they were going to be there today, but then this one says that next Saturday, which is tomorrow, term of agreement and 3 files on the discussion table with al-Sudani. This visit is scheduled for next Saturday, where Barzani will meet with the Iraqi Prime Minister. During the visit, Barzani will discuss several files with Iraqi officials, such as the budget, salaries, oil, and the resumption of export, in addition to relations between Erbil, Baghdad, and others. I mean, that's really powerful. Those are the 3 things that we were talking about. They need an exchange rate to be able to evaluate their assets. So they tested the waters. They tested the oil pipeline. They said it's ready to go. Turkey is ready to go. They've already tested it through Iraq's system, not in Turkey yet, but they did do their system, and they said it's ready to go. Yeah, fascinating stuff when it comes to that. But if they're going to be jumping the gun and they're getting ready to pump oil again, after being down for a year plus, there's a reason for it. Just like these salaries are supposed to be paid, they say, all these different times, one next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, by the end of the month. And now they're saying even a little different. They're before-eyed al-Fitr, before-eyed al-Fitr. Well, al-Sistani, the head honcho over there, basically said that, well, it's not the 9th, it's the 10th. We'll get into that in a little bit. It says the Kurdistan Democratic Party bloc, and as a representative of the people of Kurdistan, we feel very happy about the very recent agreement reached between the Kurdistan regional government and the federal government, as our demands were the necessity of funding employee salaries. So they've met an agreement. Fair enough. It says if we're able to separate the salaries of the Kurdistan employees from actual expenditures and include them within the sovereign expenditures, the matter will certainly be very good. Sounds good to me. Therefore, the issue of amending the budget law must be resolved after Eid al-Fitr. Well, they're talking about also paying salaries before Eid al-Fitr. So how are you going to do that? Well, you have to make a decision on how you're going to pay those citizens. Obviously, it's going to be electronic. We know that the banks are requiring, in the defense ministry, for instance, that you're no longer going to get cash payment. You're going to have to be electronic. So that's the whole focus when it comes to that. Here it says the need for every employee to have a bank account. That's what they're talking about. The federal government says basically stating that, hey, if you don't have a bank account, you're not going to get paid. The Kurdistan regional government, Barzani, confirmed yesterday, reached an appropriate solution to the issue of allocating employee salaries in the region and extending his thanks to the Prime Minister, Mohammed Shia al-Sudani. Okay, so they have an appropriate solution. They have, with respect to the issue of allocating salaries in the region, all employees need a bank account to get paid. That's how I see it, and maybe you guys feel the same way. It's the European Union mission welcomes the Baghdad and Erbil agreement regarding funding the salaries for the region's employees. So we just talked about this. There's an agreement that's been reached by Baghdad and Erbil regarding the funding of the salaries. We believe such agreements contribute to the stability of Kurdistan region and Iraq in general. Of course it does. Calm the people down, pay them, do it timely, give them some comfort. It says, I look forward to my visit in Kurdistan region of Iraq in the next few weeks. I'm ready to listen, interact with all parties. But this is the European Union. So basically they're coming after the fact as far as I can tell. Okay. But the point is that they're looking forward to the stability that it's going to bring. Hey, by giving you all that information, I just want to say thank you to all you guys for being here with me tonight. I'm going to have part 2. Okay. Save a little time for everybody, but come check it out tomorrow afternoon or evening and see what we have for the next video. The main thing is that we have the content that shows that Iraq is moving into a direction to go international, and it's phenomenal. So if you like my content, please hit that subscribe and like button, and we have the 3 different venues for small donations or any amount that you like to think is fair to help keep this content rolling is always appreciated. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.